And accelerate progress, that's the theme for this year's International Women's Day. And in the course of the day, we've talked about the need for employment and empowerment, entrepreneurship, education, and what have you. But in the next few minutes, we'll be turning attention to reproductive health as it affects women in Nigeria. And I'm joined by Dr. Abayomi Ajayi, who's the Managing Director of the Nordica Fertility Center and founder of various women's health organizations and advocacies, including Endometriosis Support Group Nigeria and Support Association for Fibroid Awareness, among others. He brings a wealth of insights to our discussion on women's empowerment, inclusion, and health on this day. Dr. Ajayi is right here with me in the studio. Thank you for joining us on the program.
My pleasure, Nifen.
And happy International Women's Day to you.
Happy International Women's Day.
You know, before they used to say it's a man's world. But let me tell you my story. I have an incoming CEO who's a woman.
Okay.
My director of news is a woman. My head of presentation is a woman. My wife is a woman. I have 2 daughters. I have a mother who's a woman. I mean, my life is completely controlled by women. So where did we get the idea that women are marginalized?
Well, that's a tough one because I think, you know, even biblically,
yes,
we refer to women as the weaker vessel. But the weaker vessel, I think, is misinterpreted. I believe that women are much, much stronger than...
Are more powerful than we all like to...
They can multitask, you know, they can do so many things. Well, I think the thing is that probably they don't know it themselves. And so that's why we're probably here today, to continue to tell them what really they can do. Absolutely.
So let's begin with infertility and how it affects many couples, not only in Nigeria, but in Africa. And the idea now is that women often bear the burden of stigma and blame. Why do you think that is still the case in 2024?
Well, you know, the same thing. Women physiologically are the ones who get pregnant, all right? So when it's not happening, she's the one people are going to ask. Naturally, a man might be shooting blanks, and the wife gets pregnant. So to him, he doesn't have infertility. So there are so many things culturally that, and you know something again, most of the time, the person giving the woman the tough time, the person labeling the woman barren, is another woman. And that's why I say that we really need to...
Maybe the mother-in-law.
Yeah. So we really need to actually let them, probably empower them to know that really and truly they are more powerful than men.
Absolutely. But do you think that it's more of a cultural issue, or you think is an ignorance issue? Because over the years, we've had more education, and one would think that that shouldn't be an issue as of today.
We've had formal education. But you see, in Nigeria, for example, this is sad, really. With our educational system still develops, it makes you a good engineer, but not a good human being. And that's the difference sometimes with some people who school abroad. It develops you to be a human being before you become an engineer. In our system, it's the other way around. You're just a professional, and you don't even know. How many people go to the supermarket and start seeing, okay, this thing I want to buy, this is the carbohydrate content, this is the, you know, until recently when we started looking at, you know, before we used to say that if you are not big, that means you are poor. And so you see so many people harboring diabetes. Exactly. You know, you see people harboring diabetes, eating carelessly and stuff like that. No, did you used to see anybody jogging on the road when nobody's chasing you? But now we know differently. But this thing is evolving very slowly. So that the change that we need will also come slowly.
Absolutely. So what approaches are available? Let's just get to the mix of it, you know, to address issues of infertility, because that's a big deal, you know, for West Africa from indices from last year. And how do you think that support can be provided in that regard?
You know, you know, for whatever reasons, in Africa, the South and the North embraced assisted conception before the West, and now actually the East is the last. They're just trying to catch up with us now. But I can say for free that almost anything that you can do anywhere in the world are available now in Nigeria when it comes to reproductive health. All right. And that's because of the influence of some private individuals that have really invested into healthcare. Because I keep hearing about investing in women, and I hear SME, I hear, but if these women are not well, they can't do nothing.
Absolutely.
So healthcare is a very important aspect of the well-being of women. And until we start investing into this aspect of it as well. So, and then when we do that, we also need to educate people. Okay, I had a discussion this morning with a couple, and really and truly, they were holding on to things that were not scientific. These are graduates. Okay, so, and I said to myself, we still have a long way to go in educating people, in making them change that mindset from what my grandmother told me, which is a myth anyway, to what science really says. And for us to be able to, and one unfortunate thing that is happening in Nigeria now is that I was listening to a program, Your View, yesterday, and they said people are beginning to beat doctors in hospitals, assault doctors. It shows you the decadence that before you don't touch doctors, because they are the people who you are going to give your life to. They are the ones who are going to stay with your wife and make the difference between life and death. But now, our values are changing. Somebody can just walk into the ward and slap a doctor. I'm not saying that doctors are infallible, but come on, let us give respect to whom respect is due. So we also need to re-engineer such thinking. And that's why you see young doctors are going abroad, because they don't get paid well. They don't, the people that they are supposed to be serving don't even respect them. So we really need to do a lot of things in order to be able to get these guys. And I tell people, look, I've been almost everywhere in the world, but Nigerian doctors, Nigerians generally, we are blessed. And we need to start valuing our own.
We talk down a lot on our health sector until I started hearing from my friends who jackpot to Canada how they can't even take their children to hospital. They have to set a date. And I'm not talking about weeks, sometimes months, before they can get an appointment with a medical doctor.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen here.
No, you're just walking, even after you have done your chores, or you've gone to the market and you're coming back, you just roll into the general hospital.
Absolutely. And if the queue is too much, you're already ranting there. What's happening here?
Yeah. And some private hospitals are saying now, come on appointment so that you don't stay long. Indeed. And Nigerians are looking at it as, those guys, I think they have too much money. That's why they are discouraging us from coming.
So you're saying that if a woman cannot conceive, she can be assisted?
Oh, yes.
How far have we gone with that in Nigeria?
We've gone very far. For example, that's what I've been doing for the last 21 years. Okay. We've had thousands of babies from that. And I know so many people who are doing that. So I think when it comes to that aspect of medicine, seriously, we're doing very well.
Does this bypasses, potency in men? So, for instance, if the problem is with the man, how do you navigate that?
Okay. It's funny what science has made us to understand, that the only thing that is really important is for the sperm to be able to get into the egg. And now there are many ways that we can make that happen outside the body. Okay. And then the moment we've done that, there is no difference. The body does not recognize the difference between the embryo, that is the fusion of the egg and the sperm, that is made in the laboratory, and the one that is made on the bed. It doesn't recognize the difference. The same fate happens to them. It's either it accepts it or it rejects it. So now we're able to treat men or couples that normally we would say they are infertile. Now it's possible for them to have babies.
What is this technology called?
It's called IVF, simple.
IVF sounds very expensive.
Well,
but we won't talk about that.
No,
right?
no. You know, when you say technology, you see, it's just like saying that education is expensive. All right? Anything that is based on technology will definitely have a price tag to it. All right? Now, we live in a country where we don't even manufacture jack. All right? So, if you want to practice IVF properly in Nigeria, you're going to import virtually everything that you're using. Okay, so there must be a price tag to that. And of course, we know what power is like also.
I hear you clearly. So statistics say that one of the biggest health issues with women is fibroid. And we're probably going to talk about that after this break. Stay with us, everyone.
Imagine a world where this day is just another day,
where celebrations of progress
aren't confined into a single date.
No need to demonstrate our strength or skill.
for equality will be the air we breathe and the ground we tread.
gone will be the need to recount victories, as every triumph becomes a stepping stone and not a wonder.
No more rallying cries for change, for justice will be the anthem of our daily lives.
This day will fade into the core of our existence, for every moment will be a testament to our unity and resilience. Happy International Women's Day from TVC Communications.
Dr. Abayomi Ajayi is the Managing Director of Nordica Fertility Center. Is my guest on the show today. I consider it a bonus episode for women on International Women's Day. Thank you so much for staying the course on the program.
My pleasure.
All right. So what then? Because you know, with technology, with social media comes the desire of women to look in a certain way. So the moment the tummy starts growing, one of the biggest suspects is fibroid. What are the cautions to take in this regard, vis-a-vis the latest advancements in the treatment options?
Okay, thank you. Now, the first thing is because the woman lives with herself, so she's the one that first notices some of these changes. I think one of the common is, like you said, probably a bulge. Many people notice it, but they tend to want to ignore it. I'll come to why they do that. But also there are some other things that they notice, or they might notice. For example, your menses might get heavier. Either the number of sanitary towels that you're using get more, or you're bleeding for more days, or they're just simply heavier, or sometimes with clots, okay? Now, they also might want to ignore that. Most of the time, they have a lot of pain either during their menses and sometimes even outside their menstrual period. But the one that usually troubles them is when they can't conceive, when it's also associated with infertility. And this, I always tell people that it's unfortunate, but they are not the same. Infertility and fibroids are not the same. So, but they can be associated with each other. They're like cousins. They're not brothers. All right. So now, when you notice some of these things, it is important that you go to the doctor. Why many people don't want to go to the doctor, or even some people go to the doctor and the diagnosis is made because the only option till now was surgery. I mean, you and I know that nobody wants to be operated on. I don't, even as a doctor. So,
is it that you don't trust your colleague?
No,
doctors?
It's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of, it's an invasion into my body. Everybody feels that way. We have that kind of, I don't want to say sovereignty. Yeah. So, but it's an invasion. You don't know. There are uncertainties. Things can go wrong, And so you don't want to do anything unless you have to do it. Okay. And then sometimes you are even told that if you're not ready to get pregnant, don't even touch it yet. All right. And so gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we find women who come in that the fibroid is as big as a 9-month pregnancy, a young lady. So these are things that we need to, and that's why we're doing this kind of thing, educating the women to tell them that, look, it's 2024 for the sake of Christ. It's not, you don't have to have surgery when you have fibroids.
What's this alternative?
There are a few of them.
Because I've heard concussion. You know, some people say there are some herbal concussion.
No. I'm medical. so there is no ASJ here. If you know what I mean. So now there are non-invasive methods of treating fibroids. There is one that we call the embolization, okay, where you get some things injected into your artery and then it blocks the blood supply. To one that is completely non-invasive, that they don't even touch you. You just lie down on the bed and then the doctor messes around for about 2 hours and it tells you that it's over, and it's really over. So that we call HIFU, or high intensive focused ultrasound.
That sounds a little bit magical. How do you take it out?
Okay. The principle is based on turning ultrasound waves into heat energy.
Oh.
Okay, you remember, I don't know, those days when people used to play with magnifying glass, you know, and we say we're performing magic. You could place the magnifying glass at a particular distance from the paper and the paper catches fire. Okay, if you change that distance, it stops burning. The same principle. Now, you can converge ultrasound waves to that particular distance and it will like almost catch fire. So don't forget that we're made of proteins. Okay, our cells are made of proteins. And proteins can denature, just like egg. You can boil the egg. Okay, if you have fresh egg now, put it in water, raise the temperature, it's different completely. The same thing happens with the fibroid. So it's like you boil the fibroid and then you kill it. The only difference, and
how does it come out?
Wonderful question. That's what I was going to go to. Now, the problem we still have with Nigerians, which we know is a natural problem, they are now comparing that method to when you go to the hospital and you remove. Despite everything, you tell them that, look, we're not removing this fibroid, we're killing the fibroid. So, the fibroid is going to be there for a long while. And your body, because it's dead, your body is going to start, you will see, you can follow it, it starts shrinking. It starts shrinking. Depends on the diameter of the fibroid which you started with. Sometimes, some people, it completely disappears. For some, it might not completely disappear, but it will decrease appreciably. Okay. Now, where they make the mistake is this. Even when you do surgery, why do you do surgery? It's for you to have relief of the symptoms of fibroids. This will give you the relief of the symptoms. Improves your quality of life immediately.
Dr. Ajayi, we have run completely out of time. I mean, I didn't even know that we had run out of time. But I'm hoping that, you know, because you mentioned earlier that there's a lot of contribution from the private sector. I'm hoping that this technology is also available in public hospitals. How do you, in a minute, what do you think government is doing in that regard?
Well, you see, it depends on the priority. It's because, seriously, it's not cheap. Anything technology is not cheap. So if the government wants to take it as priority, it's not impossible. But, of course, it's a new in Nigeria, it's a new thing. Like, oh, we have 3 machines, now we have a 4th one in Africa. One is in South Africa, one is in Egypt. We have one now in Nigeria, and then one in Tanzania in December. In Nigeria, we're having a 2nd one in Abuja by maybe April. Okay. So there are few machines, but it's something that we're trying to tell people. We have done over 420 in Lagos. Wow. Yeah. So we're trying to let people see that this thing works, but it works in a different way. All right.
Thank you so much for coming. I think we're going to have to continue this conversation some other time. Consultant gynecologist, Dr. Abayomi Ajayi, thank you so much for talking to us.
My pleasure.
All right. You can watch it again at midnight if you missed a large part of it. or at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Once again, happy International Women's Day, everyone. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu do solemnly